we've talked about many aspects of coming to a school as a principal and figuring out how to provide what students need. I'd like to start with something I saw you do, and let you kind of finish this interview with advice you'd like to give to principals when they're new to a site. But I saw something, and mind you, in the district that she and I worked together, it was my third district of having a large proportion of English learners. And one day she invited me to come over for a student assembly. So I thought that would be fun to do. You get away from students way too often in the district office. So I went over there. And as many schools do, they were having an award ceremony for increased performance. And suddenly she was giving awards to students for moving up a level on the SELF. And I was absolutely blown away at my own stupidity that I had never thought to do that. I'd never had anybody else I worked with that thought that was a good idea. And I thought, here we are giving kids awards for being the most improved student. And a lot of schools do this in a variety of ways. And I'm sure a lot of schools now also recognize the improvements in learning English. But when we know that students who learn English and are now bilingual are better students than English-only students, and we never acknowledged it, was beyond me. So I want to applaud Cathy for starting that at that school.
I can't believe you remembered that.
But it was significant. And
apparently.
Because it was such a cultural, well, it was an aha, but it was also a cultural shift that we weren't acknowledging the achievement of these students. So I just wanted to start with that as an acknowledgement to you. And if, for some reason, the school that you're going to, or even the school you're currently working at, has not thought of that, I thought it was such a good thing to get started. So if you just speak briefly about, okay, they're aspirants, they're soon to finish their credentials, what would you like to advise them?
Well, congratulations, number one. As I mentioned earlier before, I probably did stay in the classroom too long. I think my only regret would be that I didn't have longer serving as a principal, because I absolutely loved it. Know that it's a very hard job. It can be a very lonely job. But the one thing you have to have in place, in my opinion, becoming a principal, is you have to know what your core beliefs and core values are. You hear that in leadership classes, but oh my gosh, I found that was so true. And when I said earlier, you know, what are you willing to take a stand for and put your job on the line? Because I looked at this as more than a job. I looked at being a principal was so many roles. You know, you were the manager of the school. You were the curriculum leader. You were the advocate of the kids. You were responsible for teacher training and classified training. You were the one who was on the line if a kid disappeared and you couldn't find them. And knowing what you're there for and that you are in charge, and you truly are in charge, and that will probably come to each of you at a different time in your career as a principal. Usually an event will happen and you'll realize it's that aha moment. I am the person in charge. They actually do what I say. But you are in charge. And so I think one of the important things I want to say to you is please, please make sure when you are evaluating teachers that you follow those guideline standards, because they truly give you a base of what to look for in those classrooms. Don't give a teacher an outstanding evaluation because she's such a great person and had a few really good lessons. You know, she needs or he needs to be outstanding across the curriculum and everything they do, to be exceptional. And there are those teachers, and to me, giving it to someone who really isn't that way is an insult to the teacher who is. And the other piece of that is some people go into teaching who don't belong in teaching. And you need to say to them, are you sure this is the right career for you? Because I see you struggling. Your classroom management is faulty. You're not focusing, you know, kids aren't with you. They're not engaged while you're teaching. And so in my career, I found that two of the teachers that I had let go did not choose to give them tenure. And of course, they were very upset with me. One of them actually came back and thanked me a couple years later because they'd gone into business and said, you were absolutely right, this is not my thing. But at the time, I couldn't see it because I had so much time put in my education. But again, having been there and having to get rid of a teacher who has tenure is so much work and so much time that takes away from doing the other things. Don't create that to where another principal has to step in and take care of that because you created it.
I love what you're saying, because the question was about meeting students' needs. And we can talk about having the right curriculum in place. We can talk about knowing the data. All of those things don't work if we don't have the right teachers in the classroom.
Right, right. And again, I think also on the flip side of that coin is you have to recognize on your teaching staff why, if a teacher is faltering, why are they faltering? For example, I had a teacher in this district who was a fourth grade teacher who had earned the reputation, wasn't a very good teacher, but in previous years, prior to my coming, he was the teacher that got all the second language learners because he spoke some Spanish. Well, but he wasn't a good teacher. And I'm thinking, okay, during a conversation, one of my little mantras is kill them with kindness. Rather than go off after somebody or look or use, kind of be that mean person, I would try to use kindness to find out. And so I always gave people the benefit of that, and I say, well, I see that you're struggling with this. Tell me about your background. Where did you do your student teaching? Well, I found out he had never student taught, that he had been on emergency credential, so he had never had that mentor coaching him in a classroom. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to say to him, well, no wonder, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, nobody ever picked that up. Maybe we could create for you a coaching situation now. And so I did that for him, got one of the other teachers who was very strong on the team to work with him, plan with him, go into his classroom. I would sub for her while she went in, and she modeled for him a lesson. And then he would go into her classroom and do the lesson. And again, I would sub for him. And he was able to turn around his teaching. So, I had to identify, was he savable? Yes, he was. He'd been in there a long time. But I was able to turn that around. So again, looking at what are the needs of the kids, what are the needs of the teacher, why can't the teacher meet those needs, what do I need to provide for the teaching? And then had that not worked out, then I would have had to start documenting and doing the hard stuff to move him out because he wasn't good for kids. But I was able to help him and make a difference for him, in which made a difference for his kids. So again, you have to be creative, and those are things that you're not learning probably in your leadership classes right now to be a principal. Those are things that come with experience, and going out, talk with other principals. One of the things I think is a great asset is a group of us would get together and have breakfast, and couldn't do it all the time. We tried to do it every 2 weeks, and just talk about what was going on in our schools, because that's a support for you. One of the things I had said to Connie was what I found in my career when I left my first district as a principal after 4 years. I finally learned that the assistant superintendent of instruction liked me and thought I was a great principal. But she never said that to me during the 4 years. I thought she hated me because I was the one who would raise my hand at a staff meeting and ask a question, and if she didn't know the answer, she could cut you to the chase. But I asked the questions because I always wanted to do the best job. And so I learned that after being cut down a couple times in front of about 100 people, talked to a few colleagues, and they said, well, when she doesn't know the answer, that's her response. Well, then it kind of dawned on me, okay, then maybe I need to ask her that after the meeting in private. And that was okay to do. And so, again, that was something sometimes I learned the hard way, but finally did learn. And when I left, I couldn't believe that she was saying, I can't believe you're leaving. I'm like, I can't believe you wanted me to stay.
I'm sorry.
So I think that obviously watching this video, I hope some of my passion comes through. I've been retired 6 years. So when Connie asked me to do this, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing this in a long time. But your passion never leaves you. And I think to become a principal really is, like you said, a calling. That it's something you're meant to do. And you may choose to become a principal and then find that it doesn't suit you. And that's okay. There are a lot of other jobs out there that you can move into. But I think to stay as a principal in a career, I found that as much as I missed the classroom with the kids, my teachers became my classroom. And then I found I could really affect many more kids instead of just one classroom of kids, because now I had a classroom of teachers, and by affecting their teaching careers and helping them to become better teachers, I was affecting many more kids. And so that's what I found fed me. I always laugh. My husband says I'm a helper by nature. I always want to help people. And I truly am. And I think for me, this fit because I felt I want people to succeed. I want them to do well. I want kids to learn and be happy. I want their parents to be supportive. But my role as a principal was, how do I help get people to those places where they're teachers, parents, or kids? And sometimes the hard things are helping a parent understand you have a child who has some behavioral issues. And, I may only have this kid at my school for a few years, even for the rest of your life. What can we do to help this child be successful and help the parent be the kind of parent they need to? So you have lots of hats you're going to wear as a principal. Wear them with dignity and wear them with your passion, with your heart.
Thank you for all the time you've given us to talk about
You're welcome.
the role of a principal. Thank you.
My pleasure.